Hello everybody, Brad the Guitarologist here, coming at you with something a little bit different than we normally come at you with. We've got a couple of, probably I would say these are 1990s Electro-Harmonix made by Sovtek. I have a Small Stone and I have a Big Muff PI. Electro-Harmonix goes back to the late 1960s. Throughout the 1970s they issued a Small Stone and a Big Muff. They stopped making pedals around the mid-80s or so, and then they had to pretty much start reissuing them again in the 90s because of the demand for the old ones. So what they did was I think they hired people to basically redesign these. Now this one here, this Big Muff PI, this was actually designed by, of all people, by Fran Blanche of Fran Lab, whose YouTube channel I recently recommended. And these were brought to me right after that. So interesting. You know, I say something about this person and their accomplishment, and then somebody brings me a pedal to fix. That's kind of the way things go in life sometimes. You can see this one has a missing LED. I don't know if it's down in there or what, but he said this thing is not really working either. Big clunky switches on these things, man. You can tell these are Russian just because they have that Russian over-engineered army feel to them. That's about the best way to describe Russian engineering, is just a real militaristic spare kind of a thing. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with either of these. I think one of them wasn't coming on at all, or he gave me actually 3 different pedals, so it's kind of hard to keep straight in my mind. I guess we'll just kind of go through them, see what they're doing or not doing, and then see what we need to do to get them back up and going. I guess first let's go ahead and start with the Small Stone Phasor, and we'll see what's going on with this one. First thing we'll do is just check the battery, make sure we have a battery that's working. .6 volts, a little bit low. Alright, here's some batteries I had laying around in my stash, and we'll see if there's anything here that will yield us closer to 9 volts. And there we go. That one should do fine. When you store batteries at 9 volts, it's a good idea to put a piece of electrical tape over the terminals, because if they do contact something, it's just gonna run the thing down. Like if it's in a drawer or whatever by itself, either leave it in the package, or if you have it out like this and it's got life left and you want to store it, at least put a piece of tape over it like this in case it gets up against something. Another way you can usually tell if a battery is really spent is if it's bulging out. It's going to be kind of hard to tell probably, but this one on this side is bulging out a little bit on the bottom. When you try to stand it up, you can really tell it because it kind of wobbles. This one does not wobble. It just goes down flat. It's not bulging at all on the bottom. But that's usually another way that you can tell. It's actually bulging on the top as well. It's kind of hard to see, but it is bulging. Plus the thing's from 2008, so it's definitely a bad battery. Alright, well here we go. In case anyone feels like getting nostalgic, I'll bust out the Carven Cable. I would have expected to at least see some life just plugging in the cable. Okay, and we have it does seem to be affecting the output. It cuts it off whenever I engage the switch, and the color actually seems to do something as well. Changes the noise at the amplifier. but you know, it's doing nothing else. So let's pop this thing open. Okay, so what we want to really do here, I don't know really the first thing about this pedal except for that it does phase shifting. So that's about all I know. Without a schematic, I'm somewhat flying in the dark here by the seat of my pants, but sometimes by the seat of your pants actually works, surprisingly enough. There is what looks like a trace right there. You see this? Well, that's the first thing I notice. That trace right there. You see this trace coming from here? It appears to be this is the negative of the battery, okay? So the positive's the red and it goes over to there, positive. Let me get a pointer. Okay, positive goes to here, negative goes to here. If we follow the negative up along this trace right here where it gets thin and gets really fucked up right there. So what's going on with that? It looks to me like we might need to bridge that. Let me get a magnifying glass. Well, I'm just going to have to use the zoom on this camera to try to see, because my magnifying glass, my little helping hand with my magnifying glass is lost. Yeah, see, that is definitely not connected. See there? Definitely not connected. So, I'm going to bridge across, and that looks like someone already has done that in the past. And the fastest and easiest way I know to test this is just to hook the thing back up. So let's hook up the output. Alright, there's the output. Where's our input lead? Alright. Our trusty Carven input lead there. Alright. Turn the thing on, make sure it's on. Turn the amp on. Okay. And let's just do this. Come down here. Clip this on and clip it here. Right. Now there's definitely still nothing there, so something's not right. Maybe I've got a bad set of battery leads here. Let's just do this. Hell. Let's eliminate the leads altogether. I'm getting a little bit of signal through the pedal, but it's still really nothing there. I'm getting nothing on this indicator light. I would expect it to at least light the light. Well, I guess let's go ahead and pull this knob and pull the board all the way out so we can get a look at the top of the board. Well, that's interesting. They I guess they use a shim on these knobs here, because these are the small Russian pot shafts. Let's get these off of here. That sucker's really on there. I don't want to tug at it too damn much, but man, somebody's really cinched down on that. I don't think that thing's gonna want to come off there. That sucker is on there, man. Somebody has really cinched down on that. Did somebody glue that? Man, that looks like that might That might actually be glued. It would be nice to be able to get a little bit better look at some components. You know, sometimes when you look at some components, you get an idea of, you know, what may or may not be bad. I might be able to, you know, stick a couple leads on some transistors and do some tests. And that might be all we're looking at is a bad transistor or something, you know. But without being able to get the thing apart, I mean, I just don't know. Okay, a little bit more poking around on this thing, and a couple things that I noticed. First of all, there is another broken trace. You see that broken trace right there between those two pads? That should be repaired, and basically that's what that gator clip is doing. It's hooking that back up eventually. What it should do is take it to ground. But let's see. Also, I noticed that the incoming positive voltage goes to those two little pads right there, which are isolated from everything else. So what it does is it comes into one of those pads, and then another wire underneath the board takes off over here and basically in series sticks in an optional 9-volt through that jack. So, you know, you can inject power from an external source. Well, that jack may be bad because check this out. When I do this, here's my positive. Okay, so it's on. So something is not right with the jack. So let's that power jack right there. Let's yank that power jack and see what's going on with that. I am guessing that it's supposed to have a continuous contact in there, and that contact is probably corroded. Actually, before we pull that jack out and see what's going on with that, let's go ahead and fix these broken traces. There's actually only 2 broken traces that I can see. I've kind of scoured around this board. I see a few places where the trace has been kind of rubbed, and I do see some broken solder. I'm actually going to reflow some solder around these some of these connections, but let's go ahead and do that before we take that jack out. Okay, so there's one of the unsightly trace repairs. If we follow that trace over right there, alright, it goes to there, and then there's a pad missing there as well. So this yellow wire coming to that point actually should be bridged across there anyway, right? If that trace is indeed supposed to be there, that is. That could be some kind of revision that they did at the factory. So they scraped that off at the factory and then added this yellow wire instead, because maybe perhaps that was a mistake. Or it could have been some kind of you know, change in the circuit. I'll tell you what, let's try it with without repairing that trace first, because that could very well be a factory thing that was intentional. At this point, let's go ahead and actually check this jack, see what's going on with that. I was gonna say, don't tell me they glued this one too. Well, that's the good news actually, because these being glued in isn't gonna be a problem in this repair, I don't think. Man, that would have sucked, because what I would have had to done, I guess, is break these, cut them off maybe, and then desolder them. I guess that's what I was gonna have to do, or desolder them, pull the board, and then drill them out. I don't know, something like that would have had to have happened. But okay, I suspect the problem is right in here. Probably there is a contact that is not being made. This will be the shield right here, and these two contacts, one of them is coming in, and the other one is going out to the back to the board, and these need to be permanently bridged until something is plugged in. So this one should be continuous with ground, and it is. So that's the shield, that's ground. So these other two need to have a permanent connection. That's all there is to it, and they do not. We have open lead. Okay, this terminal right here, if you look at what it's attached to this plate that it's sitting on, and those two hooks, this hook over here, and there's another identical hook over on this side. This plate right here, which is attached to the spring and gets pushed up and down, is supposed to connect with these when it's in the down position, and that of course is attached to this other side over here. So in the down position, and its rest position, these two little hooks right here and this plate should be pretty much permanently connected to one another, and they are not. So that needs to be either replaced or fixed. Let me see if I can clean it. Surely I should just be able to clean these contacts and make this thing work, you would think. Alright, I got my leads hooked up to each side. I've cleaned the contacts thoroughly, and I've also reflowed all the solder on this jack, and I've got it down to pretty much nothing now as far as resistance. So we are good to go, I think, with this. yeah, that is a 1990s era Electro-Harmonix Small Stone made in Russia by Sovtek. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have, please hit subscribe. In the next video, we will check out this bad boy.